Hello, super producers and great people. I believe we are all doing well wherever we are. And thank you for joining me again for yet another wonderful tutorial. And in our previous video, we were studying on how to use some of these tools to make our work better. And today we are moving forward. And what I'm going to do, so that maybe I'm able to illustrate better on how to use some of these tools, we are going to record something. I don't know, I'm not so sure whether I'm a voiceover artist, but I'm just going to try to sound like a voiceover artist and record something here, and then we are going to use some of these tools to edit. I hope today's video will not be as long as the previous ones, but unfortunately sometimes we don't have a way of shortening some of the videos we usually do. So we'll record. I'm just going to get an excerpt on something, and then we record it. I'm going to record it, and then from there we try apply some of the knowledge we have so far from these tools. I'm going to show you how you can use the different tools and edit something. So I think we have a lot of blank tracks here, so maybe the first thing I'll do is just remove them. Now, one of the ways you can remove many tracks at once, you could click on one which is blank, hold Control, select others, or you could as well click on one which is blank, and if they're following each other the way these ones are following each other, you can hold on Shift and click on the last one. Once you do that, click on Shift again and T. That one will clear all those tracks that you've selected, so you remain with this one that you want to remain in the project. As simple as that. In case you want to add more tracks, you click on T again, as I told you, and then the same procedure, do whatever it is that you want to do, and then add the tracks. So for now we don't want to add anything, so we're not going to click anything. So remember, this blue line here on top means that this area has been looped, and we don't want to have this loop selection on, because whatever it is that we're recording might go beyond the space provided. And what that basically means is that once whatever we are recording gets to this particular point and we are still recording, then our recording is going to start again, and we don't want that. So I'm going to put the loop toggle off for now, and there are two ways. I can either use my mouse to hit this place down here where we have the cycle button here on the transport panel. That's the first option, or I can as well click the shortcut on my keyboard. So I'll just use my mouse for now. As simple as that. So I want to look for something simple. It might not make a lot of sense, but I'm only using it for illustration purposes. So I'm going to use this part. I'm deliberately going to make some mistakes here and there while reading, and so that now I put these tools to use. We put all these tools to use, the relevant tools, not all of them per se, but the relevant tools, we put them into use and see how it works. Okay, so I'm going to record myself reading an excerpt here. I've already hit record, and as you can see, it's already recording. So those are some of the errors we'll remove. Okay, so, and this is what this small excerpt reads like. Documentary. Let me try read like somebody who's doing a voice over a narration. I don't know whether I'm a voice artist. Documentary voiceover scripts are mostly written with video in mind. They are also likely to contain interviews with people linked to the subject matter, although this isn't always the case. Radio or audiobook type documentary reads are Radio or audiobook type documentary reads are much less common today, unless the goal is using the voiceover as an exhibition explainer in a museum, etc. In either case, the story is key, and documentary scripts. Let me repeat that part again. In either case, the story is key, and documentary scripts are all about fairly descriptive and emotive storytelling. Yeah, I think I tried. Yeah, you might not believe it's one and the same person. It's still recording. I need to stop. Yeah, I've stopped the recording. Now, for Studio One users, the shortcut for zooming in and out is E and W. That's what I'm pressing on my keyboard right now. In case you used different shortcut settings, you can go back to that. But as I told you earlier on, our intention is to put these tools to use. All right. So we're not going to talk so much about the waveform and everything. Of course, this is slightly advanced now. We will deal with that in our in our future lessons. Yes. But now we need to start editing. Remember what I told you. I have a small problem with my screen. That's why but it doesn't show on your video. That's why you see me sometimes trying to drag my window slightly to the right hand side. It doesn't mean anything anyway. So I want to use as many tools as possible, but in a manner that you understand what I'm trying to do. So first things first, what exactly are we supposed to do here? I have toggled the link arrow and range tool button so that now we can put these things to use properly. Now let's listen to our audio. How does it sound? I've already hit record, and as you can see, it's already recording. So those are some of the errors we'll remove. Okay, so, and this is what this small... All right, so I don't want to waste a lot of time. So I don't want that part, basically. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have the smart tool. Now, some of these things, I told you once we start applying, there are things that we're going to start putting into use. Now, there's something you call snap, toggle snap. Now, once you toggle snap, it's really hard to make very small movements. Once it's disabled, this is where we have the toggle snap. What toggle snap does, it grids your cursor into specific spots, let's call them bars. Yeah, so you cannot make those very micro mini movements if the snap is on. But when you realize when the snap is off, when I move the cursor, the cursor can stop anywhere. All right, the cursor can stop anywhere. I can put the cursor here and it will stop. But when this is activated, it is hard to put the cursor in one particular spot. That's now how you snap to grid. Okay, so I have removed this particular part because I'm recording a voiceover, and there are places where I might be making some really small movements which I want to chop off and do some edits. So I've toggled off the snap so that now I'm able to make those adjustments. All right, so I'll go back to the beginning. Down here we have the transport panel. So you have, by clicking this one, you return to 0. And there's this shortcut to that as well. You can click on 0 if you have a numeric pad keyboard. You can rather, if you have a numeric keyboard, you can click on 0 on the on that numeric the numpad section, and then it will go back. It will return to 0. So those are some of the things I told you. You can work around your own shortcuts, and then it's going to be easy for you. So I want to remove this beginning bit. I've already hit record, and as you can see, it's already recording. So those are some of the errors we'll remove. Exactly. So we start by removing those errors. So I'm clicking here, highlighting this bit, and click on remove. Or rather, I'm just clicking on backspace, or you can also click on delete, and then it's out. Okay. So, and this is what this small... I still don't want that part. I delete it. I move this thing to the beginning again. I get my cursor back to the beginning. Documentary. Let me try read like somebody who's doing a voice over. I definitely don't need that part. So I remove this whole part again. So I want you to understand what I'm doing. When I want to remove a section, I select from up here. When I want to delete that particular the section I want to remove, I highlight it from while positioning my cursor up here. And when I want to remove it, I only hit on backspace, and then I can hit back on my arrow tool or my smart tool by selecting the lower section of this same wave file. It is as simple as that. Okay, so documentary voiceover scripts are mostly written with documentary voiceover script. Definitely I've repeated, so I remove that, move to the front to the beginning again. Documentary voiceover scripts are mostly written with video in mind. They are also like... I might not need this space, so I'll highlight it, click backspace or delete, and then see what I've done. This was the space where we had the silence. So since we don't want this silence, I can now bring this thing closer to the previous one. So this is how it will sound.
Video in mind. They are also likely to contain interviews with people linked to the subject matter, although this is...
Okay, so here I can zoom out a bit, highlight this section, delete again, and then glue this part again. As simple as this. And then keep on playing.
Matter, this is
a repetition. So I can, okay, now let me show you something different. Instead of highlighting this section, I can just use this tool. Now, when I bring it to the edges, there are two things here. When I bring it to the edges down here, there's a simple tool that appears. This tool is not selected in any way. It only appears when you come to the very, let's call it the boundary between two borders. When you put it here and you start dragging it in, it's equivalent to deleting that section. So I've kind of deleted that section without necessarily selecting. So I've dragged it inwards, and then
this is, although this isn't always...
Sorry about that. A little bit more.
Although this isn't always the case. Radio or audiobook, it
has repeated. So again, we highlight this section, we remove it, and then we glue again. So that's what you do.
Radio or audiobook type documentary reads are radio or audiobook. What am I saying?
See,
radio or audiobook type documentary reads are.
So these are very many errors. So you clear all of them to that particular spot where you want to remain with the correct section.
Case. Radio or audiobook type documentary reads are much less common today, unless the goal is using the voiceover as an exhibition explainer in a museum, etc. In either case, the story is key and documentary scripts. Let me repeat that part again. In either case.
So in either case, so we look for...
Unless the goal is using the voice on today, unless the goal is using the vision explainer in a museum, etc. In either case.
So from in either case, that part was repeated. So we need to understand which part we really want.
Let me repeat that part again. In either case.
Good. So it comes up to this point. So from here.
In either case, the story is key and
we don't want that part. So we remove this bit and then we glue it again. In either case.
Etc. In either case, the story is... In either case, the story is key and...
You've heard it's repeated again, so we don't want that part still. So these are the many ways which you can work around. So I want to use something different this time around. I want to use this scissors to chop off this area. I don't want this area. Okay, and then go back to our smart tools. Okay, where was this smart tool? Yeah, it should be somewhere here. So I'm linking these two so that I'm able to do a few things. So look here, I've chopped off.
The story is in either case.
I've chopped up from here, and then I select here. I click on this. So whichever method works easily for you, go with that one. And as I said earlier on, for example, I want to change something. Let me change. Control will give me the extra option of splitting. So when I want to get the split tool, whenever I hold control, the only thing I'm getting now is a split tool whenever I'm holding control. Once I release, I have the selection. Once I come down here, I have the arrow tool, the smart tool. So you see, we're not doing so much. We have like three tools at a go. When I hold control, I introduce an extra tool, which is the scissors. When I release and point at the upper section, I have the selection range tool. When I come down here, I have the smart tool. I think this is so common also for Pro Tools users. And it's a wonderful feature because these are some of the things you're doing almost throughout. You're cutting, pasting things, dragging things up and about. So I can do this. I can choose to do this. Maybe I want to do just as a very small section. I'll consider maybe using the splitter like this, and then hit delete or backspace, glue things together. And when you're doing some of these things, make sure that you don't zoom so much, especially inwards, because you might end up not really seeing what you're editing. So I prefer doing something that, rather zooming to a position where you are able to see your content properly, so that you don't end up now doing this kind of mistakes. You might end up doing this kind of a thing. You think you're probably cutting from this point because it's so much zoomed, so you can't even know whether you're really cutting the correct spot or the correct position. So I prefer when you do all these cuts and pastes and dragging up and about, make sure that you're able to see the project properly, because a small mistake might give you a lot of trouble. You might not really be able to know what you did, which is not really good. So basically, that's what you do. So let's
in either case, the story is key, and documentary scripts are all about fairly descriptive and emotive story.
You see, we don't want that part. We can choose to use the scissors to cut this area. Push it here.
Descriptive and emotive storytelling.
This is silent. I can choose to use this method. Clear. Drag it closer.
Storytelling. Yeah, I think I tried. Yeah.
We definitely don't want that part. That part is now my signing out. It is not important, so we can delete everything there. So this is our voiceover. So what did we have originally? I can easily drag one file down here. Let me get it back up. Like this, because I am just trying to develop the raw file from a small sample. So this is what we had initially. I want you to see the difference. So initially this was the length of what we were trying to create. So you can imagine we have about 2/3. Yes, 2/3 of what we had produced was unwanted, and the only way to do that is by removing it wisely. Now, removing it wisely is by chopping off those sections where we had a lot of maybe breathing and repeating words, and a lot of excess pauses or unnecessary pauses. So that's what we've been doing. So these tools are meant to do that work, and this is something you can never ignore. In some situations, you can highlight the entire file, and once you highlight the entire file, you see there's a small box coming in at the top here. Now, what these boxes do, you can easily increase the size of the waveform or even take it down. This one is mostly used when you're trying to level out things. There's a better way of doing it, because there are a few advanced things that we're going to talk about. Things like what exactly does a good wave look like, and what are we looking for when we are looking for that good wave file? What are the parameters? What are the guiding principles and features that we're looking for when you are trying to assume that a wave file is in good shape, or it's good in the way it appears? So there are several factors to put into consideration. We are not only boosting or taking it down because we want it to look good in our eyes. There's also a response that we want it to have in our ears, and once we start mixing a few things here and there, there's a particular response that we want these wave files to have to the plugins. Before they hit the plugins, there's a threshold which we call gain staging. Now there's a particular threshold that you want for these particular waves to have before they hit the plugin. So right now we are not talking about gain staging. We're not talking about all those slightly complicated stuff. We're only talking about how do we edit what is already there, whether it's good or bad. How do we edit it? So that's how we do it. So in our next video, probably we are going to also kind of understand how to even out things. Definitely, as you can see, this is a very dynamic wave in some way. Not maybe very dynamic like this section. If you look at it keenly, we have some spikes kind of. It's not really so dynamic, but we have a few areas which are jumping out of place. So we will get to understand how do we go about these kind of scenarios, and how do we control them during recording, or maybe which is the best part to regulate this part. Is it during recording or during how do you call it, during mixing and doing other things, putting the process, the compressors, the EQs, and all these other things. So the most important thing to consider right now is that we have understood how to use the tools to some extent, and that's basically how you're going to use the tools. So in case you want to mute a section, you can just click You could as well let me just go back to our smart tool. Where is it? I've told you my screen has a small problem, don't worry. So I can click on a section and then click on this particular tool here, and I can mute this section, unmute it, mute, unmute it, mute, unmute it, or even select several sections and mute them while holding control. I can mute several sections. So I don't want to do that right now, so because whatever it is that I have here is exactly what I wanted. So when listen to our voiceover, now this is how it sounds. It's not properly polished, but this is now how it sounds.
Documentary voiceover scripts are mostly written with video in mind. They are also likely to contain interviews with people linked to the subject matter, although this isn't always the case. Radio or audiobook type documentary reads are much less common today, unless the goal is using the voiceover as an exhibition explainer in a museum, etc.
Exactly. So already you can feel the difference. Let's try play this other one.
I've already hit record, and as you can see, it's
definitely we're already having errors running, so we don't want that. So that's how you edit. We are going to perfect a few things here and there as we keep going, but basically that's how you do it. So in our next video, we are going to discuss just a little bit on how we can even out. Before we start maybe doing compression and all these other things, it's always good to have a healthy looking wave. So we are going to talk a little bit about how we can make things look good before we start processing, and why they should look good before we start processing. All right, so from today, for today, I believe that should be enough. And as always, remember to subscribe. Hit on that subscribe button. Hit on that notification bell. Share the video to your friends. Share to many other people that are in the same field. Share to friends that want to learn a little bit about Studio One as well. We've already done introductory videos, so that now they can as well get into this particular family, and we get to learn together. So for today, I'm so grateful, and till next time, goodbye.